Good morning, Max. How was your weekend?
Hey, Max. Man, it was great. Yeah, went to Atlanta on Thursday and was over there for Thursday and Friday. Got on back and watched all football Saturday and did a little work yesterday, and I'm back on the road this morning.
Max, we started off. I think the SEC office should be ashamed. Devin White's out of that game. They cried. LSU fans cried, which I think they had a beef. I don't really think he should have been out, to be honest with you. Their best defensive back clearly targets Ruggs in the end zone. They call it. They go to the booth. Human nature, I guess they just said, we can't take this player out because we'll get backlash, so they ruled. Ed Orgeron goes crazy. To me, you lose all credibility when you do something like that. What was the thinking on calling that a non-targeting call, Max?
Yeah, I don't know. It's no different than Kevin White. When he tried to pull up, when he tried to not take Fitzgerald, if he'd have been targeted with literally like the one we saw Saturday night, Fitzgerald would have been in the hospital. But I believe he did try to pull up. So there's the inconsistency. But just remember the whole rule there is based on judgment call. Now, I know when it goes to review, that's a different story. But on the field, it's a judgment call. I contended forever that the severity of the attempt should be judged. And I think they need I think the guy needs to be tossed during that game. Needs to be a personal foul if that's what they rule it as. But then a review should allow the severity of it if you really think the kid's trying to pull off, or if you think he was really trying to take him out, like that was very evident to me on the goal line, the defensive back that came across on Alabama players. So I think it's still in the early stages of that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know that they know where to go. The inconsistency is just part of not knowing, okay, what is this all about? I think, again, it still relies on the judgment call by the people reviewing.
Yeah, but I think
Max, I want to ask how many people. One of the problems is it's coming from Birmingham, Alabama, and nobody at LSU likes that. That's bad. My question is: do you and I, two of us, make the call? Do you and I and Barry make the call? Do I make the call by myself? How many people make the call in the booth on that particular play?
Well, I think it's at least two or three. It's not just one. I think particularly it goes back, and I don't know if that's where Steve Shaw's sitting or not, but I'm thinking that's where he is, and he's probably got a couple other guys. I don't believe anybody's going to have the audacity just to say, hey, that was my call, and that's the way I see it. Because we all know, three of us could sit on the corner out here and watch a wreck. We're going to get based on three different opinions of how that goes. It has to be a consensus. But again, it still boils down to the judgment call. That's why I think it has to be, and I think there needs to be a review of a call like that as far as taking them out of the next ball game.
Yeah, but you say a judgment call, and you're right. But I think when they went to the booth, it was such a big game. It's 1 versus 3. LSU's already got one guy out. They went crazy. If we take this guy out, it's going to be a nightmare. Let's let it go and let him back in. You can't do that, and that's what happened. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think there's any room for discussion on that. But that's what happened. So, obviously it moved on. It didn't affect the ball game. Not to say that it could or couldn't, but it didn't. Alabama comes away with a win. Now, that was a very physical ball game. We know that. Alabama, a couple of guys I thought they tried to take his leg out as well on a couple of hits.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, they finished the ball game. I made a comment to some LSU friends yesterday. They complained about it. I said, hey, Tua had a bad leg. You still outrun all your defensive backs on a 43-yard run. So, what else do you got to complain about?
Yeah, Max, for the first time since with Alabama beating them like that, you hear the LSU people say, boy, there's just such a big gap between the. Usually they won't give Alabama credit. Now the ones that I heard just said, man, we're not even close to that.
But what they echo Orgeron. Did you just watch it?
Yeah, but Orgeron saying that, hey, we got to recruit people, we got to recruit better. What if his players stood up and said, "We need Nick Saban. We need a better coach on the sideline"? I mean,
well, but they can say what they want to. Orgeron's in a position to do a better job. The players aren't in a position to do a better job. You see what I mean? They're in the position to make the call. Now they can walk, walk, scratch them all off, and then start over.
Yeah, but when he says we got to recruit better, we got to get better players, this, that, and the other, I don't like that. That's what you got.
I asked the offensive front, about number 92, and they couldn't double team him. They couldn't. He had 3 sacks, and 2 of those he split the double team on them. That's how much better he was than everybody else.
I know that, Max. We saw that. But for the coach to say we got to get better. But what if the players went to the media and said, you know what, our coach is called a sorry game. We need Nick Saban and Mike Loxley. We need better coaches. I mean, you got all in together. And I think for a coach to stand up there and say we got to get better players, I don't think that's right.
Max,
we all have opinions. About that. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I think he was absolutely truthful. I can guarantee you, check what's going on in Arkansas right now. Chad Marsh has told every kid on there, every day your scholarship is on the line. If you don't make it, we're going to cut you. That came directly from Chad Marsh last week. Now, how you like that?
Well, I don't mind if you do it behind, with a team, but go to the media to do it is what I'm saying. Go ahead, Dad.
2 things I want to mention to you, one whack. Number 1, Jimbo Fisher saved Gus Malzahn's job. That was the worst called game. All he had to do is run the football. Game's over. He's going to win it. He's got 10-point lead. And secondly, right along with Alabama, a big credit needs to go to Missouri.
Yeah. Well, you go back and look. We'll start with Jimbo's situation. You're right; they didn't play well, and it was a terribly called football game. But remember, Auburn's got to go to Georgia and go to Tuscaloosa. And if he gets shellacked over there by 30 or 40, and that's a good chance they might, I don't know whether that could save his job or not right now.
But they're coming out with a rumor today that Hugh Freeze is going to be the new offensive coordinator down there.
Oh God!
That's just come out on the wire.
Steve Manetti. Boy, they have gone to the bottom. I'm going to tell you guys, he's the biggest fraud in college football.
Wow.
I'm telling you. Period.
When you say fraud, like by how he acts and how he, or by how he cannot be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's his personal life versus his professional life. That's and you think parents won't send their kids to that? Come on. And that's not hearsay. There's evidence of that. Why do you think he resigned the first time it surfaced? That's the reason.
Yeah, Max, Mississippi State, they seem to be playing a little better. They did do what they were supposed to do. Sometimes those kind of games are hard to get up for, Louisiana Tech, when you've been playing these big SEC games. Giving Joe Moorhead and them credit. I think the game in Baton Rouge, although Alabama won at 29-0, Najee Harris went off. You had a couple Jalen Hurts, to me, they showed him walking. He didn't look like he'd be ready this weekend either. Mississippi State's a physical football team. Alabama is drained a little bit. Could this game be closer than the experts think this weekend?
I think it will be early. Yeah, but Alabama's the depth thing. All week this week, you think about coming off a game like LSU. In my opinion, I think they'll let up a little bit on the ones. They'll get number 2s and number 3s ready to play, and I think what you'll see, Najee Harris. We don't know how bad the ankle spring is on that. I mean, Coach Saban said he didn't think it was very bad. They limped off pretty hard when he came off the field, but they still got 3 or 4 more backs. The number 24 Robinson kid didn't play but 20 snaps all year, and they can put him in against that. And Mississippi State's going to play. They're going to play well. Just remember, here's another situation. Coach Moorhead now. This is critical. He hadn't played in. This team hadn't played a game like Alabama. They played LSU and didn't do that well. He ended up with 19-3 or something like that. But Alabama is different. They're on a different level. So I would think that Mississippi State will come in with a decent game plan. They'll be limited. and Alabama will know exactly what they're going to try to do. They know they don't have to stop the draw, the quarterback draw, and they know they have to stop the slant pattern. That's the two major things they've succeeded on up to now, and Alabama's capable of doing both of those. So I think the game's going to be a 25, 30-point difference, just like most all the others have been.
Georgia, that was my blue plate, so I'm bragging about it. But Georgia's gotten better. I don't know how good they are, but I think they're better. I think they're playing better, and I think it'll be a pretty decent game against Alabama.
Yeah, they aren't as good as they were last year. They got a bunch of young players, and their offense is offensive, but they won't be able to run the ball like what we saw Saturday against Kentucky. Alabama will do too many different things, and Alabama's got the speed. As good as Swift might be, Alabama can run him down from behind. And I just use that as an example. I think they're going to be there. I don't disagree. I think they are better. But they had better be better, when they go have to play a team like Alabama. I still think Alabama wins. And I think I didn't see anybody else. Clemson comes as close because they can score. But Clemson comes as close now with playing Trevor Lawrence in the quarterback as anybody out there. And I think it's going to be Alabama and Clemson when it's all over.
Have you ever heard any comments at all from the Ole Miss people who put Hugh in there? Archie making any comments of the guy had all the money that was a basketball? Have you ever made any comment?
No. When all that happened, those guys disappeared. Archie, Sean Toohey, all those guys, the big hitters over there that had a lot to say so. And that's why I think when the change comes, and it's coming, they did not renew the president's contract first. I predict they're going to take care of the athletic director. He's going to go, and Matt Luke and the whole staff's going. They left the bowl ban in this year, but they did overturn basically the recruiting aspect, so they can go back to their number of recruits now. And I think with that, I look, and that's just I've talked to a few people, but it appears, particularly after the loss, they got to go to Texas A&M this week. I don't think they can win out there. They got to go to Vanderbilt. I don't know that they can beat Vanderbilt. They got Mississippi State. So 5 and 7 is glaring them right in the face. And if that is the case, then I look for them to have a complete changeover. I don't know how active those guys that were had previously been in there, but I think that they're going to probably start with a new president, new athletic director, and let him hire the coach. That's just a projection that looks like it's coming from me.
Max, has Tua wrapped up the Heisman?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think. Is anybody else out there?
I don't even know who it would be. No. I mean, the quarterback at Oklahoma and the running back at Clemson.
The closest thing. He's the closest one out there, Barry. But I don't. Alabama's at number one. Look where Oklahoma is. So I think, and that that's the voters look at that to see really what influence that guy that wins the Heisman has had on his team. Well, there's no doubt that Tua is by far had the most influence on that football team.
Dad mentioned this earlier, and I'm not talking about here, but across the country, is what Alabama's doing taking really all the intrigue out of them, just blowing everybody away? Some people say it's bad for college football. Max, what's your take on that?
Let me tell you what, guys. Every industry has to have a gold standard. Every industry. I don't care whether it's General Motors, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Apple. Every industry has to have a gold standard, and Alabama's that. Otherwise, what do you have to shoot for? Would you rather have one or two at the top like that and everybody else trying to get there, or have mediocrity right across the board? I think it's great for college football, in my opinion. It makes everybody else work, and then if they don't, then you get your remarks from Coach O about, hey, we're not good enough. Well, that's a fact. You aren't. Well, get out there and try to do something about it. And he may not be, and a lot of people aren't capable enough to do what Nick Saban's done. If they could, they would already mimic the program and use that as a prototype and built the program. I think Clemson's done as good a job overall from top to bottom as anybody else out there. I think Georgia's on the way. Michigan didn't do it. Southern Cal can't do it. Texas hasn't done it. Let's go to the big programs around the country. They all got the same resources Alabama's got. Some got more, but they hadn't utilized them.
We got a situation where Notre Dame is probably going to get beat. Most people say not, but I think they're going. I think they will. And I think Michigan could get beat by Ohio State.
Yep, I agree.
Will those type things throw two SEC teams in the finals?
That's a great question. I think therein lies. I think it'll depend on how bad they get beat. If either one of those get beat, and how bad they do, and then they'll have to go with the strength of schedule goes to see. And I think that's what will determine. If it boils down to strength of schedule, I think another SEC team can get in there. I don't think nobody will get in with two losses, though. I don't believe. I think it's got to be somebody with one loss that played a decent schedule and got beat by a field goal at the end or something like that. I think all of that will be taken into consideration. For as good as the games were last year, across the board now, that's another thing. I don't think the average fan out there, the watching fan, is going to turn it on TV or buy tickets to wherever they're playing for those preliminary games. I don't think they're really happy. The committee was very happy to have two. However, for 1 and 2 to be playing out of the SEC, that does exemplify what we just said about the dominance of this conference. Now, will they let it be repeated? In my mind, it's going to work out on its own. If for example, I think Notre Dame if they go 12-0, they'll be 12-1 because they'll get beat by the first whomever they matched up with. They aren't that good. Michigan, we know Michigan, Ohio State. I think they got internal problems with Urban Meyer, whatever they may be, his health or whatever. I think we can stand back now and look and pick out where the weaknesses are, and every one of those teams is at the top. So, I think we'll get a chance tomorrow night to see how the polls shake out. I think Michigan moves up, LSU drops out, and maybe to 5 or 6. Georgia probably, I think, ends up at 5. So, and maybe LSU drops to 6 or 7. I don't know what Ohio State's going to do, mainly because they didn't beat Nebraska by 5, and Nebraska's 2-7 or something like that. So they've got problems there. The only way, even consideration for Ohio State is for them to beat Michigan at the end.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the only way for two teams to get in, for Alabama and Georgia to run the table, get to Atlanta and Georgia to win, because Alabama's going to be one of the top 4 one-loss teams.
Yeah.
So then there's no way to keep them out, but you could have a repeat game there. But you can't drop Alabama from 1 to 5, can you, Mac, if they were to stub their toe in the championship game?
I don't think so. I think that would be but I don't see how. First of all, watching Alabama, I don't see anybody can beat them, and that includes Georgia. I just don't think if you watch every snap from every play, I just don't see how. I just don't believe anybody can beat out. If Alabama plays, the only people beat Alabama is Alabama. Has a bad day. They turn it over, drop it on the ground. Special teams didn't cover. Just the intricacies of the game itself, and I don't see Alabama playing that way. I think there's too much. There's too much intensity in that program, and they're too well. There's too many eyes on every player during the ball game, not to allow him to make 2 or 3 mistakes and cost him the ball game.
Yeah, Dad's wanting Washington State in the Final Four. Any way we can get them up there?
I ain't no Mike Leach fan, first of all.
Well, Dad likes Leach, so anyway we can get him in there.
He fired that guy on ESPN. That's what I liked about him.
Yeah, I've sat with him in a booth several times, Coach. He's kind of out there now.
I know. I just try to stir up radio.
About the kid he locked up at Texas Tech in the closet.
Good.
Was that Craig James' son?
Yeah. Craig's son, yeah.
There's a lot of Craig James in there.
Got killed. He got slaughtered when he ran for office.
Who, Craig James?
Oh, yeah, they were.
Where is Craig James?
He disappeared. He pulled out to run for Congress.
Yeah, but
he's never been discovered. I don't know.
I saw him on a milk carton the other day. He was a missing person. I hadn't seen the guy. Has anybody seen him?
Nobody has.
All right, Max. What you think about this weekend? Any big games this weekend could affect this Final Four?
Yeah, I'm certainly see how Alabama performs. I'm more concerned about who plays now. Player at Alabama, how much injury they've got, and kind of how they work, toward basically what they got looking forward down the road. But I think it's going to be another. I love it this time of the year because what you get, guys, is the cream rises to the top. Those teams that's supposed to be there usually are there. those that have, played well, either have had injuries. If they started off strong, they've had injuries, or they don't have enough depth. They just, Kentucky's a perfect example. I thought they've done an outstanding job with that getting to this point, but they don't have the base and the amount of talent to play against and try to win against a team like Georgia or Alabama or somebody like that. And I think we talked a little bit about that last week. And I think that's what we'll see in some of these others. And continue, guys. What we have this week, 6 or 7 top 25 that lost again. So I think we'll continue to do that. But those top 3 or 4, I think they're going to probably stay right where they are.
Yeah, Penn State was pitiful. That's pitiful.
They were awful.
Pitiful. Get beat like that.
Does that is Michigan that good? I don't think so.
I don't know, but they're quietly kind of knocking everybody off. They'd knock off Ohio State because they're not going to lose to Rutgers and whoever. Then they're
no, that's true. I think Shea Patterson, stepped up and gotten the job done. I thought that was a good move for him, and certainly Harbaugh and them have allowed him to play the game. Kid's a good quarterback. He just ran into too many politics in Ole Miss, but the fact is he's performing on the field, and that's why they're supposed to be there now.
Yeah, I think we all gave Jimbo Fisher too much credit that he had changed the culture. It's a different Texas A&M. They're sitting there 5-4, spiraling down just like they did with Kevin Sumlin. So I don't think he's changed the culture yet.
I think you got to look at the coming recruiting class though too, Barry.
Yeah,
he's in the top 3 right now, and I think he'll end up building a program just like Kirby's done at Georgia. I mean, I think in the next couple of years you're going to see. Look, he's sitting in the most popular state for high school football players in America, and Texas certainly aren't getting it done either. Tom Herman, he's had a few wins there, but when it comes down to the critical ball games, Herman's not getting it done at Texas either.
Yeah.
And you don't think they aren't using that against each other in recruiting?
Yeah,
I know they are. So I think I'm not down on Jimbo yet. I think he inherited a mess. I thought he out-coached some guys early on, and I think he'll end up probably 6 or 7 wins this year. But then I think next year, he'll start to move that team forward.
Hugh Freeze going to turn Auburn around.
Mm-hmm. Max didn't like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate that.
Yeah. All right, Max. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.